In this video, we will be talking about building great plugins with the digital toolkit. A quick refresher on the basics of the plugin framework. Plugins are based on web technologies like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Plugins are hosted in your own public-facing web server and requested by Banno's UI when needed. Plugins can also offer a primary action to navigate a user to an external web page using a full-screen web view. In the rest of this video, we will talk about designing plugins. We'll talk about developing plugins. Finally, we'll share some general tips and tricks for building plugins. Let's talk about considerations you should make when designing your plugin. First, let's explore the card face. This is the primary and most common way in which users will interact with your plugin. Typically, these interactions will be measured in seconds. Your card face should be designed to be glanceable, responsive, and make the most of the limited space available. Think of the card face as an entry point to your user's attention. This is your first impression. The card face should quickly provide users with the most important and most frequently used information at a glance. The information that is considered most important will vary based on your plugin. Here are some plugin ideas with examples of information that is most likely to be important to the user. Investments. The user's balances for cryptocurrencies, stocks, precious metals. Credit scoring. The user's credit score. Financial literacy. The user's current learning progress. Wealth management. The user's total values of assets. Savings. The user's savings balance. Marketing. The most relevant offering for the user. Small business invoicing. The user's total of receivable invoices. Plugins are available to users on both desktop and mobile applications without any modification to your plugin. However, you should keep in mind that the experience is slightly different between the two form factors. Plugins should be designed to be responsive and adapt to a variety of screen sizes to accommodate a great user experience for both Banno Online and Banno Mobile users. Keep in mind that while you can configure the initial height of the card face, you cannot control the width. The card face has limited space to convey important information to the user. Avoid displaying branding like your company logo within the card face, as this is non-functional and doesn't convey information that is specific to the user. Use a plain background rather than using a textured or otherwise busy backgrounds. The user should be able to understand the information in the card face at a glance. The expanded view is the secondary and less common way in which users will interact with your plugin. Interaction can vary from only a few seconds to several minutes. Your expanded view should be designed to provide more detail, more content, or settings which are less commonly used. Unlike the card face, which is displayed every time the user logs into Banno, the expanded view is only seen by the user when they have specifically navigated to the expanded view. It is typical for the user to spend more time viewing content in the expanded view within a single session when compared to the time spent viewing the card face within a single session. This difference in session length means you should think about how users will interact with the expanded view compared to how users will interact with the card face. The interactions are likely to be very different in focus. In an ideal world, users would not have to wait to see relevant information. The card face, in particular, is sensitive to having quick retrieval of information for the user. However, the nature of the expanded view is that the user has intentionally decided to spend time viewing the content within the expanded view. With that in mind, it is recommended to put slower or longer running calculations in the expanded view instead of the card face. The expanded view has more available space than the card face. Keep in mind that the amount of space for the expanded view is different between Banno Online and Banno Mobile. The expanded view is where you can show more detail beyond what would fit on the card face. The expanded view is ideal for showing less important or less frequently used information. The expanded view is also an ideal place for user interface options and settings for the card face or for your plugin in general. There are two different ways of activating the expanded view from the card face: configuring a primary action button and using the plugin bridge. The primary action button is a simple way to activate the expanded view from a natively drawn button. When the user taps the primary action button, they are navigated from the card face to the expanded view. The options to configure a primary action button are limited. The plugin bridge is a JavaScript module that provides an interface between a plugin and Banno Online and Banno Mobile. The plugin bridge supports expanded view links, which are specifically attributed HTML anchor tags that are treated as special links, which activate the expanded view. Expanded view links are visually customizable via standard HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Plugins should render themselves in a pleasing way that matches the theme configured for the financial institution in Banno. There are two different ways to retrieve the configured theme for a financial institution: the institution's API or the identity token when authenticating a user. If you do not want to use the Banno theme data and instead prefer to render your content using generic light and dark mode support, then you'll have to take appropriate action on a per-platform basis. The institution's API is offered as part of the consumer API and is the best way to dynamically retrieve the theme data for your financial institution. Part of the institution's API is the theme's endpoint to retrieve the themes configured for an institution. You should use the theme values returned from this API to programmatically match your plugin's design to the themes configured for your financial institution in Banno. Now let's shift gears and talk about considerations you should make when developing your plugin. Plugins are hosted in your own public-facing web server and displayed to the user in Banno's UI when necessary. Public-facing means that the web server must be accessible via the internet and cannot require the user to be on a specific network or VPN. Plugins appear on the user's dashboard in Banno. The dashboard is the default screen shown to the user when they log into Banno Online and Banno Mobile. As such, it is the most frequently viewed screen across all of Banno. This means that the dashboard will drive a high volume of traffic to your plugin via the card face. Recall that the card face should quickly provide users with the most important and most frequently used information at a glance. When possible, it is recommended to pre-calculate or cache data for the card face to enable a better user experience and handle the volume of traffic that will be sent to your plugin and your web server. It is recommended to put slower or longer running calculations in the expanded view instead of the card face. There are two aspects to think about when it comes to the topic of authentication. First, the impact of web browsers. Second, the authentication framework that is part of the digital toolkit. Web browsers have become increasingly restrictive on cross-site cookie tracking, and this affects how cookies can be used within a plugin. You should also keep in mind that browsers will enforce security mechanisms such as the same origin policy. Plugins built using the plugin framework use the authentication framework to provide secure authentication. More information about the authentication framework can be found in the Authentication Framework section of the jackhenry.dev documentation. The authentication framework provides authenticated identity information about the user, but is specifically not a session manager. You will have to manage your own user session within your plugin. Now, let's talk about some tips and tricks to consider when designing and developing your plugin. Although many of our examples use Node.js, please note that Node.js is not required and other tech stacks are compatible with the plugin framework. If your tech stack can handle serving up HTTPS requests and rendering HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, then it probably will work with the plugin framework. The plugin framework is specifically designed to protect the security of the user and protect the user experience. While plugins are based on standard HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, the full complexity of a modern browser is not supported. As such, there are some restrictions to keep in mind as you build your plugin. More information about the restrictions for plugins can be found in the restrictions documentation. Plugins can securely retrieve the user's financial accounts, transactions, and more via the Consumer API. More information about the Consumer API can be found in the Consumer API documentation. We've just begun scratching the surface of the plugin framework. The developer documentation for the digital toolkit is available for free on the public open web at jackhenry.dev. We highly recommend that you bookmark that page as we continue to publish new and revised content on a regular basis.